Hi. The open meeting law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is recorded. Therefore, please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made by Boston City TV, a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications, and is being broadcast on Xfinity Channel 24, RCN Channel 13, and FiOS Channel 962. With that, Olivia, take it away.
Thank you. Welcome to, what is that? Welcome to the July 2021 meeting of the Boston Disability Advisory Committee, or Advisory Board. My name is Olivia Richard. I am the chair and I am from Brighton. And we will do introductions. Juan Carlos, take it away.
Hello, everybody. This is Juan Carlos Ramirez, Commission member from Boston area. Happy to be here.
Carl.
Good evening, everybody. This is Carl Richardson, and I live in Brighton Center, and I'm an advisory commission member.
Lucia.
I am on the commission, and I'm from Boston Park. Thank you.
Alice.
My name is Alice Fisher, and I'm from the South End.
Elizabeth.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Greenblatt, the chair of the Disability Advisory live in Beck.
Jerry.
You're muted, Jerry.
I saw that, I'm sorry. My name is Jerry Boyd. I'm an advisory board member and I'm from West Roxbury.
Awesome. Do we have any members that I missed? No? Okay. Let's have our first presentation of the evening.
So a note, Olivia, we had John Kelly scheduled to go first. Sorry?
Approval of June minutes. How could I forget? We need to do the approval of the June minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Then let's do the program presentation from John Kelly.
He does not appear to be on yet. I'm checking in with him, but Sarah Rodrigo, our second presenter, is present. If you would like to move that around, Chair, I leave that to your discretion, but I'm following up with John right now.
Yeah, let's do it. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, everybody. It's great to be back again this month. I hope you're all doing well. So I am here tonight. Let me share my screen. Oh, thank you, Andrea. That's excellent.
It's better for the cable TV to make sure everyone can see it later.
And it works well for me now. I don't have to both talk and move the mouse, which is fantastic. I also want to mention that I do have a co-presenter. I don't think has been able to join us yet, but I will do my very best to fill in for her. So thank you for inviting me to present this evening. My name is Sarah Rodrigo, and I'm the Public Art Project Manager with the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. As I mentioned last month, when I had the pleasure of presenting to you all about transformative public art, in conjunction with the Boston Art Commission, my office works with different city partners on all of our projects, and we've been really lucky to have regular meetings with Patricia Mendez and Sarah Leung to review and improve our proposals. Our team commissions, reviews, and cares for all public art for the city and holds monthly noticed public meetings at which all public art projects proposed for the City of Boston property are reviewed, discussed, and deliberated on by the Boston Art Commission, a volunteer commission, and members of the public who attend. My role is managing long-term public art projects commissioned by the City of Boston and facilitating all kinds of public art projects proposed by communities and artists for city-owned properties. And the project I'm showing you tonight is a community-initiated and driven project that has been in the works for, in this iteration, over a decade, but was initially conceptualized several decades ago. Tonight, I'm supposed to have Diana Fernandez from Sasaki Associates with me, but I don't think she's been able to join us yet. So as I said, I'm going to do my best to present her portion. We are presenting the design for Douglas Plaza, a new public green space in Roxbury that will be home to the legacy of Frederick Douglass, a long-planned memorial to the great orator, writer, and abolitionist Frederick Douglass. This project has been an ongoing community effort by the Frederick Douglass Sculpture Committee under the leadership of Aziza Robinson Goodnight. Aziza and the committee have been tirelessly advocating for, organizing, fundraising, and managing this project for over a decade, and we're proud to be working with them to bring it to fruition. In the past year, we've managed to obtain capital funds as well as CPA funding to make this project possible. The slide I'm sharing right now has two images. The one on the left shows an image of a clay model of the sculpture by the sculptor Mario Chiodo, and it's based on a drawing by celebrated local artist Paul Goodnight. The photo shows the model against a black backdrop on a wooden table. It's positioned at an angle to the viewer. The base of the artwork is a large book with Frederick Douglass incised along the spine in capital letters. A sculpture of a young black boy sits on the edge of the book, roughly centered, with his bare right foot dangling over the spine. His left foot is tucked under his right thigh, creating a support for the open book he holds. His head is down and he's focused on reading. Behind him is a narrow stone pile representing Roxbury pudding stone, which you may be familiar with as a native stone here. It has a compass rose on the front. Standing on this promontory is a middle-aged black man in formal dress, including a waistcoat and tails. This is the portrait of Frederick Douglass. He has shoulder-length hair and a short beard. He's standing tall and pointing out over the boy's head. To the man's left, and our right in the image, and standing on the book, is a young black man in Civil War Union soldier's uniform, holding a long rifle. And on the other side, the opposite side, also standing on the book, is a black woman in a long full skirt and puff sleeve blouse, holding a sign with a long handle, a protest sign, her hair tied in a bun. On the right side of this slide, there's another image, under text reading, "The Legacy of Frederick Douglass and Douglas Plaza." The image below that shows a public plaza. The sculpture I just described is in the center. There are planters to the left and right with exuberant green and yellow plantings, including sunflowers. On each side is a tree with broad canopy covered in purple blossoms. The ground between and in front of the planters is gray pavers or cobbles, and in the center of the plaza is that bronze version of the artwork. There are several people positioned throughout the plaza to show scale and possible uses. Next slide, Andrea. Thank you. On this slide, there are two images of the current project site. The project is between Tremont and Hammond Streets at the corner. Slade's Restaurant, which is a local institution, is in the background with a black and white mural of Frederick Douglass on it. You are looking towards Hammond Street with Tremont Street on the left. There's in the background, there's city buildings. In the center, there's a tree that is relatively healthy and will be remaining on the site. And in front of us, you can see cobblestones, a bus shelter to the left-hand side, an electrical control box between the tree and the bus shelter, sidewalks running together towards the tree and leading across Hammond Street. And then on the right, some chain link fence. That's the image on the left, and we're looking east towards the city of Boston. The image on the right shows the opposite end of the plaza, which has more cobblestones, and in the center of them is a circular concrete piece with sort of pie-shaped seams. I will tell you that no one knows what this is for. It is a mystery that we have not yet solved, but it will be removed as part of the renovation. Surrounding the cobblestones are black bollards, around 30 inches high. You can see in the background there's a parking area with many cars, some red barriers, and then some taller buildings on the left and in the back towards the right on the back, showing apartment buildings around 4 stories high. So that's the site that we've been working within, and I don't know if Diana's been able to join us because she and her team came to this site and came to this project through the artwork, which was initially supposed to be sited in the Frederick Douglass Peace Garden, and that's near this site. It's kind of adjacent, but it's tucked in behind that apartment building that I mentioned is in the right-hand photograph. It's tucked behind, and it's become a difficult site because of maintenance. So the sculpture committee determined that this site, which is very visible, gets a lot of foot traffic, and is super visible to anyone who's going by, and therefore worthy of Frederick Douglass. They determined this was a better site, but how do you site a sculpture in this particular plaza? So the sculpture committee commissioned Sasaki Associates to design a new plaza for the sculpture. And Andrea, if you can go to the next slide, I will introduce their initial concept for the site. So this slide says the plaza initial vision. It's a black and white plan view drawing. So it's looking down from above to show how the elements are laid out across the site. And let me know if you need me to describe things better, because there's a lot of detail in these drawings, and I don't want to gloss over anything. Again, Tremont Street's at the top of this image. Hammond Street is on the right-hand side, and we're looking down. The plaza is laid out in 2 sections, with the roadway leading to a dead-end street where all the parking is, or was, bisecting those 2 sections. The left section is roughly triangular with a patterned surface and 4 rectangular seating elements. The right side is a rounded rectangle with the sculpture roughly in the center. So if you see there's an oval on the right-hand side with a square inside of it, that square represents where the sculpture is, which is roughly centered on the right-hand side of the plaza. Directly below in the drawing is a curved, below the sculpture is a curved planting bed. So there are sort of white voids, which are organic shapes, and those represent planting beds, where there will be trees and other native plantings. And in particular, Diana and her team were inspired by traditional African-American gardens, coming out of those gardening traditions and using plantings and palettes that are in line with African-American gardening traditions. So that is where they started, and we got wonderful feedback, and I would welcome Sarah to jump in at any point, or Patricia if she's here, about the accessibility of this site. The fact that it's all pavers, again, which are really difficult for travel, for people on wheels, for just a lot of different people, anyone with a mobility challenge. We had that feedback. We also talked a lot about how these pieces are positioned, how the ramps are positioned in the site. And based on that feedback, Diana and her team went back to the drawing board and came up with the next plan. Andrea, if you could advance the slide. So in this slide, we're seeing the updated plaza. So most of the bones of it are the same in terms of where the planting beds are and where the sculpture is. There's been a slight shift for the sculpture placement. It's moved closer to Tremont. And they added a clear pathway running from, across the top of the site. They aligned the crosswalks better, and they changed some of the seating on the right-hand side, added some additional seating opportunities to the edges of the planting beds. And I'd like to say that I know that they did some other improvements as well, and without Diana here, I'm not able to represent those, and I apologize for that. So we wanted to share this project with you because of all the work that Patricia and Sarah had done with us, and all the work Diana and her team had done to try and make this project more accessible, make the site itself more accessible, get rid of the old cobblestones, bring in new pavers, improve the sidewalk in this area, and hopefully improve the experience in general by adding plantings and trees, more seating opportunities, and better sight lines, as well as a beautiful sighting for the artwork. And I think the next slide shows again the image from the first slide of what the plaza may look like when it's complete. So you may remember, as I was describing, the sculpture is a bronze grouping. In the center of the plaza, there are planters on either side with sunflowers and I think forsythia, and some beautiful flowering trees, as well as the tree that's already on the site that will be preserved. That tree has been making it work for a long time, and no one wants to lose it because it's put in the work for sure. So this is the same rendering from the first page that we were looking at. This shows how the piece will ideally look when it's complete, when the installation is complete. And I think the last slide is a thank you and some information to contact me, but if people have questions, we could stay on one of the other slides to make conversation easier.
All right, does anyone have a question, comment? Raise your hand if you do. Okay, Ducia?
Thank you. Thanks, Olivia. So this is Ducia. Again, thank you so much, Sarah, for your presentation. You probably already mentioned it, but I'm sorry. Can people hear me all right?
This is Sarah. There's just a little bit of feedback, but I can hear you.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Yeah, so my only question was, you probably mentioned it, but when is it going to be, when's the site going to be there, basically?
That is a really important fact that I didn't think to mention. So the site is still in the condition that I shared now. We are hoping to have this completed by the end of next summer. So it's been a long time coming. We're asking for just a little bit more patience from the community and the city while we get this done. It's a big effort. Public Works owns the site. So we're working with them, with Sasaki, with the Sculpture Committee, the Community Preservation Act, who is generously funding the majority of it. So there's a lot of pieces moving around, but we were hoping it'd be done this year, to be honest with you. But I hope to be able to invite you all to a celebration at the end of next summer, early next fall.
Excellent. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none.
Chair, if it's all right, I'll put my email in the chat, and if people have follow-up questions, they can reach out to me.
That would be great. Oh, Jerry. Go ahead, you're muted.
Thank you again for your presentation. This comment isn't related to the presentation, but I'm getting an awful lot of feedback. It's hard to hear both the presenters and the folks asking questions. Is anybody else getting feedback, and is there anything we can do about it?
So this is Andrea. I can go check in again with the cable folks here. I think the challenge is that in this room, your voices are all amplified on speakers, and then this microphone is picking that up. So I think that's all it is, and therefore something we can't change. But let me go check really quickly. That way we can give John, oh, John just hopped on. So give me 1 second and I will see if there's anything we can do. Otherwise, unfortunately, we'll have to just power through it, which when we're back in person, we won't have to deal with. Give me 1 second.
Just a note, I muted everyone during the last presentation to try and deal with some of the noise. So if you thought you were unmuted, you're not. So if you're on the phone, you need to press *6 to unmute yourself.
Yep, and just checked in that that's really the only thing we can do is just make sure everyone currently speaking is muted. That Boston Cable account can't mute because then none of us can hear anything. But yeah, hopefully that'll help everybody.
Jerry?
Unfortunately, Andrea, your mic appeared to be off when you were just speaking.
Oh no, okay, can you hear me? So you should be able to hear me through the Boston Cable window. Am I coming through at this point, closer to the microphone?
Yes.
Okay, I know I'm technically on like 3 windows right now, but I only have one
Right.
microphone unmuted.
But it's also coming through very loud.
Oh, perfect.
As well, so.
Okay, I'll make sure I'm really close to the microphone. So yeah, absent any other technical challenges, I'll kick it back to the chair to continue, and now that our second presenter has joined us.
All right.
Olivia,
Yes?
I have a question. It's David Vieira.
Yeah?
Yes, to the presenter. What's the projected cost of this project, and what part of it is being paid by the Community Preservation Act, and where is the rest of the money coming from?
So the project has received significant funding from the Brown Fund for the artwork over the past 10 years. We've also received capital funding to complete the artwork. So directly from capital, similar to the Percent for Art program that my office runs. We've gotten some capital funding additionally for the plaza, and CPA is providing $400,000 in CPA funds for the plaza construction. So it doesn't pay for any of the public art. CPA cannot pay for public art, but they are funding the plaza as an open green space and community improvement. And then the city is supplementing, it's all the city in some ways, but city capital is adding another $300,000 to those funds for the plaza and additional funds for the sculpture itself to complete that. The total, it's a lot of numbers. There's still some things in flux, but I think all told over time, without knowing the totals from the Brown Fund monies that have paid already for the bulk of the sculpture, I would guess we're somewhere in the 1.3 million range overall for the entirety of the thing. But that's, again, going over 10 years of sculpture development. And then the plaza itself is 700,000 for that space.
Hey, thank you very much.
Of course.
Okay. John, are you ready?
I am Olivia.
Okay, let's move on to John's presentation for second thoughts. Thank you, Sarah, for yours.
Olivia, how long shall I speak?
It's 6:01 right now. I would say you've got 20 minutes.
Okay, that's plenty of time. I would like to bring up the second thoughts talking points first, and I'm going to start from that and switch to the PowerPoint.
Give me one second, I will pull that up.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, my name is John Kelly. I was once on the Disability Commission and have fond memories of working with everyone. And I'm now the director of Second Thoughts Massachusetts, Disability Rights Advocates Against Assisted Suicide. And we're a group of Massachusetts. Can people hear me, or?
Yes.
I guess the feedback is just what we have. Okay. So my pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm going to start with the second thoughts talking points, which is which I sent. Okay. So so this is why Massachusetts should reject assisted suicide. And the first thing is, these are more general reasons why people should reject it. The first is that it's impossible to have real choice in a country which is run by insurance companies, whose business model is to deny or delay treatment even if life-saving. There is a case of Dr. Brian Callister in in Nevada, who had 2 patients, one in Oregon and one in California, and he recommended expensive but once hailed as miraculous treatment for people, and both medical directors of the insurance plans said that they don't cover that treatment. They just covered hospice and assisted suicide. And if you can't afford your treatment, you can become terminal. If treatment stops for any reason, for example, there are more and more people with diabetes who are reported for reasons, and also like a good 8 to 9% of the people in Oregon have ALS. And a statistic that's interesting to know there is that in Japan, 90% of people with ALS get a trach, and many people live 10, 20, 30 years with a trach. And in the United States, 90% of people do not get a trach. The doctors encourage people not to, and so I would say that they're not really terminal. And, you know, I was presented with the choice of perhaps leaving the hospital in 2018 with a trach, and having known good friends who had trachs, I cried a bit, but I said, yeah, definitely. You know, we're only here once. So legalization makes assisted suicide a medical treatment, a so-called benefit to be extended to ever more people. And assisted suicide will always be the most profitable and cost-effective treatment. A second issue is all the safeguards have to deal with the drugs before they are dispensed from the pharmacy. Once the drugs go home, there's no more supervision or follow-up. For example, if there's concerns about possible dementia when the drugs are prescribed, there's no follow-up test in 6 or 9 or 24 months when the person might want to take the drugs. 1 in 10 Massachusetts older adults are abused every year, and quarantining under COVID-19 only made the situation worse. And as we all know, people in the nursing homes are there, many because they lack access to home care services, and we definitely support a home care benefit for people so that elders can qualify for home care through Medicare rather than having to spend down to get onto Medicaid. For people living at home, nothing in the law can stop an heir or abusive caregiver from steering someone towards assisted suicide, witnessing the request, picking up the lethal dose, and even administering the drug. No witnesses are required at the death, so there's no way for anyone to know. The Oregon law has invited every sort of abuse, and I can make that document available to people. Misdiagnosis yearly puts 6 million Americans at risk of severe harm. I think many of us have been misdiagnosed or fought to get the diagnosis, you know, we finally got. And these bills could make that harm even more lethal. Thousands of Americans graduate hospice every year, and studies have shown that 12 to 15% of people diagnosed with 6 months or less to live will outlive their prognosis, sometimes by decades. For example, Oregonian Jeanette Hall wrote the Globe in 2011 that after a terminal diagnosis, she sought assisted suicide, but her doctor persuaded her to try more treatment. Her original doctor had said she had an inoperable brain tumor. She had believed the advertising about suffering and that assisted suicide was there to alleviate that suffering. And she wrote, if my doctor had believed in assisted suicide, I would be dead. And for the first time, Oregon released the percent of people who outlived their 6-month diagnosis in the most recent report. And amazingly, I could find no media outlet which covered that fact. And if 4% outlived their 6-month diagnosis, what about the other 8 to 11% of people? I'm just adding to get to the 12 to 15% that outlive a 6-month diagnosis. That suggests that many of those people died believing, trusting in their doctors that they were imminently dying when they weren't. And so I make an analogy to the death penalty and why assisted suicide is also a progressive issue. Many people oppose the death penalty, for the one reason being that innocent people get executed. There's no way to prevent that from happening because of witness misidentification, police misconduct, prosecutorial, hiding of evidence. I think many of us know the many good reasons against the death penalty. And here, the figures are even higher. Then we've got medical prejudice. The doctors who decide who's eligible for assisted suicide are the same doctors who rushed to create crisis standards of care, and some of us have been fighting to make sure that those are not outright discriminatory. For example, they were going to deny ventilators or beds to older, ill, and disabled people, the doctors didn't think would live very long. Some of us may have medical orders of life-sustaining treatment called MOLT, and these were supposed to be given to people who doctors would not be surprised if they died in the next year. And I think I got mine 10 or 12 years ago. And on the form, every question was followed by an answer with no as the first answer, like, do you want to be taken to the hospital? And the first answer is no. I've never seen a questionnaire like that. And then on the back side, it says, well, if you'd like to go to the hospital, would you like to only go for short term? If you would like ventilation, would you only like it short term? And there's this meme or idea being put out there that it's better not to receive care in a hospital, for example, and that dying at home is an ideal worth sacrificing possibly months or years of life. And I would be happy to die in a hospital if it was going to give me a chance at surviving. And when I had necrotizing pneumonia in 2018, many people thought I was going to die. And through the great work of doctors and who knows what else, I was able to survive. So I'm now going to, I go to the next page, Andrea.
The presentation or the other document?
Just the continuation of that same document.
Oh, my apologies. I will go back to that. Not sure why it's not showing up. Let me try one more time.
Well, if we're having trouble with that, I could switch to the PowerPoint.
Let's find out if that works any better.
I know that, well, I'm glad you're managing the screen. Oh, there we are. Okay, so Boston Disability Commission Advisory Board, July 14, 2021, Second Thoughts MA. Is there anyone who's blind or low vision on the call? Okay, well then I'll read and describe everything. Okay, next slide, please. First is the context. People with serious illnesses and terminal conditions are disabled. And we have a Venn diagram, which is a large oval, and it says people with disabilities. And inside that oval is a small circle, and that's people with terminal conditions. Next slide. And then the reasons for assisted suicide, this is for all years, all have to do with people's, it's been called quote unquote existential distress over becoming disabled. So the first one is loss of autonomy, 91%. Decreasing ability to do things that are fun, 90%. A loss of dignity, 74%. Loss of control of bodily functions, like incontinence, 43%. Feeling like a physical or emotional burden on family, friends, or caregivers, 48%. Excuse me. Hey, Marcus, could you take that call? Okay. Inadequate pain control or concern about it, that's 27%. And the first 2 years of the program, they had pain listed as all by itself. And so few people were reported to be concerned about pain that they added concern about it in year 3. Financial cost is very low, 5%, because, I would just say that when we talk of it's promoted as an individual choice, like in the supermarket. But when we're talking about a loss of dignity, dignity comes from other people's and our own self-esteem. So dignity, in the conventional definition is being judged worthy by other people, and then of course by oneself. And when I was first spinal cord injured, I experienced a lot of humiliation, and I learned that the way to regain dignity or ignore dignity is through connection with other disabled people. And one of the things that we would hope people with ALS, for example, before they decline to get a trait, would be to talk to someone with a trait, for example. Just like people with spinal cord injuries or multiple sclerosis diagnoses can talk to other people with similar conditions. Next slide, please. Eligibility, I've sort of already covered this. Next slide. Just that a terminal diagnosis is not reliable. This is a chart that shows opinion on laws to allow doctor-assisted suicide by race ethnicity by the Pew Research Center 2013. And this is the percent of US adults who say they disapprove or approve of laws to allow doctor-assisted suicide for terminally ill patients. All adults, 49% disapprove, 47% approve. White people, 44% disapprove, 53% approve. Hispanic, 65% disapprove, 32% approve. Black, 65% disapprove, 29% approve. Next slide. Okay, this shows a map of the Commonwealth with how people voted. And it shows much of the western part of the state voting in favor, and wealthier, whiter towns also voting in favor. For example, Newton voted very heavily yes, but towns around Worcester, Springfield, Lawrence, Chelsea, the most Latinx towns voted heavily no. For example, Lawrence voted 69% no, and also more working class towns also voted no, like the South Shore, for example, and the North Shore. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a list of the Latinx towns. As I said, Lawrence was 69% opposed, Chelsea 60% opposed, Holyoke and Springfield both over 60%. And then I've got white towns, Shutesbury, which is out in Western Mass, 80% yes. Northampton, 73% yes. Northampton is 88% white. Newton, 63% yes. But working class white towns like Taunton and Gardner both voted about 59% no. And these are more working class white areas. And so we have a class divide over who supports and who opposes assisted suicide. And, you know, for people who are disabled and have experience with this, or people who are Black or of color or indigenous. Those people are used to being disrespected by doctors and may not receive the best care. Next slide, please. Anita Cameron, my colleague at Not Dead Yet, who is the director of Minority Outreach, she did research showing that because the stereotype that Blacks are closer to animals and therefore feel less pain than white people has led to Black patients receiving abysmal treatment for pain. Our pain isn't taken seriously. We are accused of being hysterical, emotional, or outright drug seeking. In a recent study of 1 million children with appendicitis in emergency rooms, Black children were 1/5 as likely to receive opioid painkillers for their severe pain as white children. Can you believe that? Little children not being given powerful drugs for their pain just because of the color of their skin. In a 2016 study, 1/3 of 222 white medical students and residents surveyed held the false belief that Black people had thicker skin and a higher tolerance for pain. They were less likely to perceive the intensity of Black patients' pain and recommend appropriate treatment. And Anita has herself been accused of drug seeking, and some people may know Brenda Clark, who worked at MRC for many years. She's had both her daughter and sister told that they were not going to be getting any narcotics when they hadn't even asked for them. And then that Black people die from diabetes at twice the rate of white. We are the sickest patients waiting for organ transplants, yet often die waiting. Blacks are diagnosed with cancer at much later stages, and our prognosis is worse. I'll do the next slide.
And John, just
Hickson.
while we're moving on to the next slide, I just want to note for you that it is 6:30, so I don't know how many more slides are in the deck, but just wanted to make sure you knew the time.
Okay, well, you know, I think I'll just go down, let's go down a few. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And, you know, I think some of you may have joined me in protesting the movie Me Before You in 2016, which promoted the view that even if your life was otherwise perfect, having a spinal cord injury the same level as me meant that you would want to die. And so many films promote the view that it's better dead than being disabled. And this law, this bill would make that a law in Massachusetts that basically putting some people's prejudice into law that it's better to be dead than disabled. Next slide, please. Summary. If assisted suicide is legal, some people's lives will be ended without their consent through mistakes, coercion, and abuse. No safeguards have ever been enacted or even proposed that can prevent this outcome, which can never be undone. And I did not include depression, which is important to include because what these bills do is redefine depression as a rational response to a terminal diagnosis. And it is not a rational response. And that, I'll stop there. Thank you for allowing me to go over.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments? Keep it quick. Alice, go ahead. Alice, you're on mute.
Sorry. Is it possible to get a copy of your talk, John?
Yes.
I'll make sure that everyone has a copy. You should have received one this afternoon. I know it was shortly before the meeting, but I will confirm that you are on it and resend to everyone.
Elizabeth, go ahead.
Thank you, John, for an excellent presentation. Despite some technical glitches in the audio that we'll be trying to correct. As far as how other people will be. For Massachusetts, can you give us an update on where things, what is going on at the Massachusetts level?
Excellent question. Thank you. The bill is in the Public Health Committee, and unfortunately that committee is stacked with assisted suicide supporters, and the Senate chair of the committee, Joe Comerford, has committed to her constituents in Western Mass, who tend to be wealthier, whiter, professional people, that she is committed to pushing it through. And it looks like it will be difficult to persuade the committee to not pass it out of committee, but I hope that you, Elizabeth, and other people will testify against it. The hearing is going to be scheduled in the fall. We don't know when, but we usually get good notice. And of course, we don't know whether the State House will be open or not, but if it is, they usually reserve the big auditorium that only has 2 elevators. So there's quite a bit of a logjam in getting in there. And the hearing can go all day. The Massachusetts Medical Society has gone neutral, quote unquote, which basically reveals the organization as a trade association. You know, basically they said, well, we have members who would like to be able to prescribe these drugs, and so we're gonna go neutral. And in states that we have lost, the crucial difference has been that disability rights organizations have not weighed in, and there hasn't been strong testimony from our community. And in California and New Jersey, it was through legislative chicanery that, that the bill got through at all.
All right, thank you very much, John, for your presentation. We're going to move on now. Andrea, are there any other presentations that are not on the agenda?
No other presentations. The agenda as revised and sent earlier is just the commissioner's report, your report, and architectural access. So that's what is scheduled.
Okay, let's get through those. Chair report real quick. Yay to the city of Boston, yay to Michael Mewey on coming up and co-plaintiffs on coming up with an agreement to make city of Boston's curb cuts more accessible and the streets more accessible. That's a great job. Good job, guys. Mass Health is having EVV listening sessions. Check the Boston Center for Independent Living's website at bostonsil.org for the exact times and dates. They have them in both English and Spanish. That's for consumers of the PCA program. And there's more than just BCYF for swimming. mass.gov/topic/swimming. You can get information on accessible state pools. There's quite a few spray decks, splash decks, pools within the city of Boston that you can access. And that's all I have. Commissioner?
Thanks, Olivia. I will make my report very quick also. I want to let everybody know that ADA Day is coming up from Thursday, July 29th at Copley Square Park. And we'll also have an online component. We will get that link out shortly. The theme this year is going to be reconnecting. So we're going to have city departments attend to talk about their services and help people get reconnected with civic government after a long year inside. So I hope everyone will come out. We will have registration tonight. If Andrea could put that in the chat, or Sarah, please sign up. We have food, music, t-shirts. The mayor will be speaking. And this year we're honoring our EMS department for all the great work they did during COVID. So I hope you'll all come out and join us on Thursday, July 29th. Another thing that the city is working on is having open streets. The city's done this for several years now, but it's a program where they close down a few streets to car traffic. Newbury Street and a few other streets. We're still working on the details, but just keep in mind that those are coming up in August, and we will have more details at our next meeting. The only other update I have is on the campus appointments. We're still working on that. Hopefully have the mayor announce it for ADA Day, and also working on a few other potential announcements for the mayor that she can give at ADA Day. So we're working hard on that. Sorry about that. And that's all I have for tonight. I would like to say that we will skip the architectural access report. We'll do that next month. And the only other business I think we have is voting on the letters. So I would recommend a quick discussion about the letters, and then we can wrap it up.
Agreed. Okay, let's, anyone have any discussion about the letters? I don't even know if we have enough people to do a vote right now because Carl dropped off.
You have 6 members.
No, we don't.
Yeah, so 6 is not a quorum, 7 is a quorum. I don't know if someone wants to call Carl and ask him to join just for the vote. It's our last piece of business. Otherwise, the 2 latest versions of the letters were emailed this afternoon. Folks can review and we can vote at our next monthly meeting unless.
Let's do that.
Is it possible to vote through email?
No, we could, under open meeting law, call a special meeting that would take 10 minutes to run a vote, but we would have to put out a public notice 48 hours before that special meeting.
Okay, we can look into that, or next month. We'll follow up with everybody.
Yeah.
And also, we will work on the audio. I apologize, it really is difficult, and we don't want to be unfair to our presenters because they have some really good information.
Agreed. Public input?
Yes, hi, this is David Vieira. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so I have a few things I have to say. First of all, on the recent settlement with the Disability Law Foundation, I'd like to put out a message to the current mayor, all of the mayoral candidates, all of the city council candidates, that in this day and age in the 21st century, there's no reason why we should have had to have a lawsuit to bring about equity in the situation with the curb cuts or any other disability access issue. And I think it's a disgrace that time and money had to be spent to go to court in a city that continues to advertise itself as a progressive city for its people. Number 2, I was not able to attend the last meeting, and I apologize for that. I was looking for an update on the bike situation, and I was told at the beginning of this meeting that I would get the update, so I will look forward to that. On the commissioner's report that was sent out the other day by email, there was comment on the farmers market coupons, and I'd like a clarification as to whether or not those coupons can be used for something other than produce. Did I get that right, Commissioner?
Hi, David. Thanks for all your thoughtful questions. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm wondering if any of my staff know.
We can follow
Say
up. I
again?
can ask food access. I know that the matching dollars for EBT, also known as food stamps, does include anything at the farmer's market. But I believe the program you're referring to is not that one. So I can follow up with food access.
Well, I'm talking specifically about the coupons that are being offered.
I think they're
I'm
called Bounty
talking-
Bucks. The Bounty Bucks?
Yes, yes.
We can find out, David. We'll have to circle back with you tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, very good. And
All right, so-
thank you for everything you do, but you really need to change this Google thing. We never had this feedback problem with Zoom. So you should look into that.
We're definitely committed to changing for next month, no worries. Absolutely, we'll do a test run before the meeting. So just to respond to each of the questions, first about the agreement on the sidewalks, it wasn't a lawsuit, David, it was an agreement. It didn't come to a lawsuit, it was all parties working together to create this plan for access. And I really want to emphasize, because I've been working on sidewalks for 10 years, and I know John Kelly, my mentor, worked on it a lot longer than I have. In fact, he formed one of the first groups in the city called NAG, Neighborhood Access Group. where he went out and like looked at the sidewalks and he had people rally about them and protest, and I went on a lot of those protests with John, so we've been working on sidewalks for a long time. The thing about Boston is it's a very old city, and we have multiple jurisdictions. We have state-owned roads, DCR. We have sidewalks owned by the T, owned by Massport. So it's a very complex sidewalk network that's not simple to define or to work on. So that being said, I'm not making excuses. We definitely have work to do. But this settlement isn't to say, the agreement isn't saying that we haven't done any work. We've done a ton of work. We continue to do curb cuts all the time, and we talk about them a lot in the meetings. Like, there are all new curb cuts in by the Boston Public Garden. I know the previous board members had asked for that for years. Every curb cut now that's designed, all the tactile warnings are yellow. It was before we did a lot of work with Public Works, they would do gray or red. We did a ton of work in Beacon Hill to try to get them to agree to accessible sidewalks. So it's been an ongoing work stream, but this advocates just wanted to have it really laid out, like mapped up technically, and they also wanted to push us to hire somebody to specifically look at sidewalks. So I'm really thrilled at that, because now we have an ADA coordinator who's an engineer, so they will really work on all the technical pieces of sidewalks for compliance. But again, not to minimize it, we have a lot of work to do. Just to say that we've been working on it, we will continue to work on it, and this settlement basically just formalizes it. So we're excited about the settlement because it was a really good collaboration. So I don't want you to feel that like Boston is this race, because it really isn't anything like that. It didn't come to a lawsuit. We really stepped up and worked with them. So that will be ongoing work. And then
Thank you for that explanation, Commissioner.
Okay, great. And I know the new ADA coordinator in Public Works will be working very closely with my ADA team, Sarah, Patricia, who already did a lot of work on projects, give a lot of input. But now this person will be specifically focused on curb cuts and intersections, which can be complicated in a city like Boston that's old, hilly, that's densely packed, and it's narrow sidewalks. So it's a really, really good thing. I think it's like a big win for us. So then your other question, go ahead.
I have one other thing to bring up, so finish your thought, Commissioner, and then I'll come in again.
Okay. So for the bike plan, we had been working with Public Works to look at a series of videos, sent them some suggested videos for bike safety, and they've been filming the videos internally and looking for people with disabilities to participate. So we did some upfront work on that, but then it has been delayed a bit. We had other timely things that came up. We had to transition back to the office. We are planning for ADA Day, and we also launched a new initiative with the Boston Public Schools this summer. So we just really had our hands full, and we haven't circled back to the bike plan yet. We likely will circle back to it in August. And I say likely, meaning that it will be by August that we'll circle back to it. It just might not be July, but it will be in the middle of August. And popular mode. But
I think I made the point at the May meeting, Commissioner, that this is coming in too late for this season. So the point has been made.
Thanks, David. And again, we are looking for people to volunteer for the videos. If anyone's interested, please reach out to us and let us know.
Okay. One other point I want to bring up is the subject of bus stops. There's a bus stop in Hyde Park that I've been trying to get repainted because the paint on the asphalt surface of the street is worn out. I've been bounced 3 or 4 different departments. The MBTA says it's the city's responsibility to repaint that bus stop. The city says it's the MBTA. I've talked to 311. I've talked to the transportation department. I've talked to the public works department. who the heck is in charge of repainting the bus stops?
Yeah, David, Sarah just put in the chat that maybe you could give us the address of the bus stop. Like probably 80% of things we do in the city are pretty standard, clear cut, easy to do, easy enough to do once we have the funding and the work order set up.
Commissioner, there's too much feedback. I can't understand what you're saying. Can
Okay.
you get back to me privately?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Patricia and Sarah can get back to you directly, David.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this clown car has gone on long enough. Let's have a motion to adjourn. Seconded. All in favor? Okay, let's adjourn. Until next